day 2 of the 21st Annual Conference put together by WIMBIZ. We're so honored and so excited to be your hosts. My name is Otefe Emodi. I'm an actor, a TV presenter with Breakfast Central on News Central TV. I'm also a lawyer and, more importantly, honored to be standing before a collection of some of the most powerful women on the continent.
And my name is Kunle Remi, an influencer, content creator, an actor, and the #1 leading male actor in language globally.
Now, to put that in context, for some of us who haven't seen the movie Anikulapo, it's streaming on Netflix and it was breaking records, and this man here is the leading man. He played the character Saru, who had quite a journey with Adeola Kingsley. That's why a lot of the women were upset with him. But like we said, they have forgiven you.
Speak for yourself, Olive. Speak for yourself.
Well, I have forgiven you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, we'll go forward with today's activities, but want to urge you yet again to please engage with us on social media. Use our social media handles, tag us on your tweets and your stories at WIMBIZNG on Instagram and at WIMBIZ on other social media platforms. We want to see your tweets. Also, there's an after party. We must mention that. If you're wondering what the dress code is, look at Kunle's feet. That's the dress code. Now let's get straight into the activities for today. Our first conversation is about health, very importantly. All right?
Yes.
Now, this panel or this conversation is sponsored by Marcel Ruth Center and Specialist Hospital. We're going to welcome the first person, and before Kunle welcomes the first person, I must mention that if you have questions, we might be able to squeeze in a few questions, so be ready for when the question and answer segment comes on, especially our virtual audience. We want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us. Please, can we put our hands together for our virtual audience? It takes a lot to join online and stay online and not be distracted. There are many of us here, we can relate to how we used to work when we were working virtually. When your boss is talking to you and you're saying, sorry, my microphone is muted, but you know you were turning semo. So it's important that we applaud our virtual audience. So once again, can we please put our hands together for them?
Also, I must celebrate WIMBIZ. I had many of my lovers that tuned in yesterday. That's in a good way. Many of my lovers in a good way. Fans of WIMBIZ, beautiful women all over the world that tuned in, and some of them reached out to me to say, WIMBIZ, the organizers need to sell or give out the template for the
virtual
online,
events.
For the virtual, absolutely. Yes. And they said it to the extent that they said, look, they need to give award shows in Nigeria the template of running a virtual event. So a round of applause for WIMBIZ.
I mean, what can we say? It's WIMBIZ. WIMBIZ is known for excellence. Now let's welcome our first speaker for this morning.
And that will be Adeola Kingsley-James, life giver and kingmaker, CEO, owning My Greatness Limited. A
round of applause for her as she comes forward. And please remember to write your questions down. We're going to open the lines. I work on TV, sorry. That's why when I talk about phone lines, it feels like I'm on TV.
So I'd asked that I come last.
Oh.
And I asked a couple of times, but it's okay.
We're so sorry about that.
Good morning, everyone.
You would always be the first and not the last.
Last in Jesus'
Amen.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And it's so wonderful to be here today. You all look beautiful. And so I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. So I had planned a joke because I'd been put in between other doctors. So my first line was going to be, I'm not a doctor yet. However, I will soon be one. And I planned a joke around it, but it's okay. It's fine. Today we're going to be talking about your emotional health. And for me, I like to talk about my experiences because as a therapist and hypnotherapist, I've worked with quite a number of people who have said a couple of things around their emotional health. And I wanted to talk about it today because it also affected me as well. So I have 4 things I want to talk about. I haven't got that much time. I think I have about 7 or 8 minutes. So I'm going to almost run through it. But I'll share some of the things that affected me and my emotional health. And maybe you can find yourself in one of it. The first thing that affected me emotionally was comparing. I compared myself to everybody. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't short enough. In my case, I married somebody who is a widow and had 2 children. And so I compared myself also to the dead wife, right? And it definitely, I wanted to be the perfect woman. And I don't know if there's anybody here who, you know, I know of 3 sentences that I've heard the most. I'm not good enough. It's not available to me. And the last one is, I'm different. I cannot connect. And so a lot of people find themselves in this place where they're consistently comparing themselves to other people. I'm not tall enough. I'm not short enough. I'm not light enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. And I don't know if anybody has found themselves in that situation in a very long time. At work, maybe, you know, it's not available to me. Rather than comparing, what I started to do was be grateful. So I had to be grateful for who I am, what I have, knowing that I am enough for a time like this. And that helped my emotional health and well-being, right? And so gratitude, I'm not even sure how I can express what gratitude is. But gratitude just tells you that right now, everything is okay. Maybe my height is just enough for what I need to do. Maybe my color, my skin color, is exactly what I need for now. And so the second one was competition. Now, as a child, there are 4 roles children play. One of it is the brilliant child as a child. One of it is the carer. One of it is the rebellious child. And the last one is the sickly child. Now, as a child, you come back home with good grades. And your parents tell you how good you are with your grades, right? And immediately you start to feel that connection with your parents, because now every time I come home with good grades, my parents respect me. And then one day, maybe rather than coming first, you come third. And your parents start to say to you, the people that had first, do they have 2 heads? Who was there? Yes, I can see a lot of my sisters here. Yes. So you then start to think that, no, I must be first, otherwise I'm a failure. Now my question, failing at something and being a failure, are they the same thing? Exactly. So we then want to be the first. And so we like those kind of titles, the first and the best. The first and the best. And so if we're not the first and the best, then what happens? You feel like a failure. Rather than competing, social media also is not helping. Social media now, we're on different people's streets, seeing all the clothes that people are wearing, seeing all the different things, their cars. And then you're saying to yourself, God, when will it be my turn? Who's there? Yes, sometimes we're looking at it and wondering when those kind of things will happen to us. And that's another thing that affected my emotional health, competition. So rather than competing, what do? You collaborate, you connect, you create community, right? And that's what we're doing here. This is a community of women, powerful women. Now, I must also say that I was a functioning traumatist, and that's a word that I created. A functioning traumatist for me, sorry. Okay, all right. A functioning traumatist for me is somebody who comes out looking really good and is very, very, you know, people are even wishing they were like you, but deep down in your heart, you are lonely, you are alone, you are you don't feel appreciated. So that's the word, unappreciated and unseen. And so that's the space that I played in. Now, comparison and competition for me was one of the things that affected me daily. So rather than competing, what I decided to do was create community and hang out with people who were like-minded, find people who I could collaborate with, and find people who I can connect with. I was talking to Dr. Edebi earlier on, and he was talking about connecting. Connecting is one of the things that can take you from point 0 to point 10, because now you're hanging out with people who really can help you, not people who want to tear you down or break you down or any of those things. So your emotional well-being can be affected just by the people that you hang out with. So rather than competing, find good people who are ready to lift you up and not tear you down, and spend a lot of time with those people. Now, the third thing that also affected my well-being was complaining. I was a chief complainer. All you needed to say was, Adeola, how are you? I'll tell you how the world is crumbling. It's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault. I never took responsibility for anything that I did or anything that happened, forgetting that I was creating my reality with complaining. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person, and I understand how important that your words are. Whether you like it or not, you're a creator. Whether you like it or not. My question is, what are you creating? So I spent time, and we're comparing Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria is not good enough, so people are Japanizing, as I call it. So a lot of people are constantly complaining. My boss doesn't like me. My children are terrible. My husband is this. My this is that. And I was a specialist in complaining, and so I was never happy. So rather than complaining, I realized that what I could do was create the kind of life that I wanted to live. I realized that I was an extra in my own movie, and I wanted to be the superstar in my own movie. So what did I need to do? I needed to change things around. And so I stopped complaining. Now that I know what I do not want, I now know what I want. And a lot of us are masters at knowing what we do not want. If I say to you now, what don't you want in a man? What do you want in a man? I don't want a man that cheats. That's the first thing people say. I didn't ask you what you didn't want. I said, what do you want? And then they're stuck. And a lot of times, we cannot get what we do not ask for. And so if you do not know what you want, it won't matter what you get. So I decided I wanted to be the lead star in my own movie because I'm the writer, I'm the producer, I'm the director. I sit down to do the marketing. So why do I want to tiptoe through life to death, hoping I can make it to death peacefully when I can come out and shine? And that's what I decided to do, and that changed things around for me. And the last thing was that I had to silence the inner critic that I had in my head. That inner critic. You know, in the movies, you see a good angel and a bad angel. The bad one that keeps telling you, they told you will never amount to anything. And in my case, as a child, I didn't feel loved as a child. I was a middle child. And so I wasn't the first, neither was I the last, neither was I the only boy. And so I struggled for attention, and so I became extremely rebellious. Extremely. And I would go to places and people will say to me, you will never be anything. You will never be anything. I'm wondering where they are right now, because look at me now. Thank you very much. And so rather than allowing that still small voice that is consistently nagging at you and telling you how terrible you are as a mother or wife, or maybe a month ago, my daughter said to me, Mommy, you're a bad mother. And I smiled, I said, thank you. And she looked at me and she said, Mommy, don't you want to be a good mother? I said, it depends on who is judging me. And then I said, okay, you know what, let's have this conversation. Why do you think I'm a bad mother? And she said, because you don't like to give your children things. I said, okay, is that really true? And then she says to me, she says, okay, you don't like to give sometimes you don't like to give your children things. I said, fantastic. So does that then mean that sometimes I'm a good mother? She said, yes. I said, that's good enough for me. Because my essence is not tied to what she feels. Right? And so one of the things that helped me as to silence that inner critic was increasing the inner cheerleader. The part of me that praises me. And so we're going to do a quick exercise today before I round up. And one of the things that, I would have done so many things, but I haven't got any time. But one thing that really helped me was the mirror work. How many people here have heard of the mirror work? Yes. Please raise up your hand. Who has heard of the mirror work? Very good. How many people have practiced it before? Very good. How many people have practiced it for 90 days? How many people practiced it today? Today, okay. So we're going to talk about it. And so please bring out your notebooks and your pens, and we're going to write 4 sentences. And we're going to practice it today before I go, and then I'll tell you how you can use it at home. So the first sentence you should write is, what I love about you is. And put your name in front of it, please. So Adeola, what I love about you is. Second sentence. What I'm proud of you for is. And so put your name in front of it once again. The second one is what I am proud of you for is. The first one is what I love about you is. The second one is what I'm proud of you for is. The third one is what I forgive you for is. Sorry. It's time. I'm working with time here. So what I love about you is, what I'm proud of you for is, what I forgive you for is, and what I commit to you to do is. Are we good? Love, proud, what I forgive you for is, and what I commit to you to do is. Are we good? So let me give you my example. Adeola, what I love about you is your beautiful smile and the fact that you show up every day powerfully regardless of what is happening around you. Adeola, what I'm proud of you for is that you are an obedient child. And you're not just obedient to God, but you're obedient to yourself and the things around you. Adeola, what I forgive you for is dimming your light, hoping that other people would feel comfortable around the darkness that you brought. And Adeola, what I commit to you to do is, whether people like it or not, I'll shine bright. And if they have issues, they should wear sunglasses. Yeah. So we're going to do it now. How many people have got a mirror here? Bring out your mirrors, please. If you have got a small mirror, bring it out. If you've got a phone, use your phone, please. But put it on selfie mode, because you're going to do 2 things you love about yourself today. And the bold ones, shout it out. If you're not as bold, it's okay. Just whisper it to yourself or mutter it to yourself. What I love about you, you're going to say 2 things that you love about yourself, 2 things you're proud of yourself for, 2 things you commit to yourself to do, 2 things you forgive yourself for. We're going to start it now. Are we ready? Yes. Ready, set, go. First one. What I love about you is? Fantastic. What I'm proud of you for is? Yes. What I forgive you for is? I'm hearing somebody say, I forgive you for not loving yourself. Yes, love it. And what I commit to you to do is. Yes. Now we're going to do a second one, and this is the last one. So what I love about you is, again, one more. Yes, my skin, love it. My beautiful smile, yes. What I'm proud of you for is being a good mother, love it. Love it, love it. Now what I forgive you for is, one last one. Yes, and the last one is what I commit to you to do is. And I promise you, if you're able to do this, if you really want to do this exercise, I want you to do it every night. Find 7 things, 7 things you love about yourself. You'll find it. If you can find 1, you can find 2. If you can find 2, you can find 7. The second thing is 7 things you forgive about yourself, and make it so personal. Sometimes you might even break down and cry. Stand in front of your mirror at night before you go to bed and say this to yourself. And when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is high five yourself in the mirror and speak to yourself. And that cheerleader that you have in you that says you've got this will rise up, and you won't need it from anybody else. Because the more you give people your joy, the more you give them the polar opposite, your sadness. So one day I was making up and I was standing in front of the mirror. My husband was standing in the bathroom with me, and I was done making up and I started to hail myself. And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm hailing myself." I'm too fine. I'm too fine. That's like God did an extra day on me today. You know, like, I'm too hot. You know, so I took that pressure off anybody. Nobody can praise me the way I praise myself. I don't think they have given birth to that person. And I also know that they have taught us that if you praise yourself, you are proud. It's a big lie. The praise you can give to yourself is the purest praise. If your children tell you you're a good mother, it's because you just gave them biscuits. So there's an agenda. It might not be a bad agenda. If they tell you you're a strong woman, and there's no medal for strong woman, but some people like the sound of being a strong woman. It's because you have just done something. But the praise that comes from you to you is the purest. And there's no agenda underneath it. So get big on praising yourself. Every other thing, choosing yourself, self-love, self-care, all those other things will show up. But love yourself first. Don't give it to anybody else to do for you. Because you will grow blue hair. And the truth is, nobody's responsible for your happiness. You are. So that's all I'm going to say today. My time is up. I hope you've had a wonderful time. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
This was the perfect way to start day 2.
Which is why we said you shall be the head.
You know,
always.
This just reminds me how sometimes you have a plan in life and then there's a detour that happens and you realize that it was such a beautiful detour. She didn't want to be the first speaker, but is this not the best way to start our day 2?
Beautiful.
We want to do a quick assignment, and what she said is so powerful because reports show that 85% of executive women deal with imposter syndrome. There are many of us in this room who have doubted ourselves, who have questioned ourselves, which is why it is important as women to affirm one another. It is important. I make it a point of duty to see people and say to them, I like what you're wearing. I won't lie though. So if I say it, I mean it. I like what you're wearing. I like your makeup. I like that speech that you gave. Just something, because you don't know what people are struggling with. Right?
Right.
Kunle, I should probably ask you, let's quickly do the assignment in 1 minute. What do you love about yourself?
What do I love about myself?
Or maybe I should ask you before that, have you ever second-guessed yourself or doubted yourself?
A lot of times. A lot of times.
Me
and
too.
It took me this knowledge to embrace myself and believe in myself. And I've seen the result of that.
So now tell us, what do you love about yourself?
I love the fact that I can become whatever I envision.
And you even do that as an actor. You play different roles. That's the power that acting gives you, and you do that as well in real life.
What do you love about yourself?
I love that I have a larger-than-life heart. I find that the world outside is cold, and oftentimes I felt the need to dumb that down, to reduce it, to shrink it, and treat people how I'm being treated. But every time I try, I feel. So I love my heart. It's one of the most beautiful things about me. Thank you. All right, before it gets very emotional in here, I'm sure when all of us go home and do this, we're going to cry. Please feel free to share with us, tweet at us, that I just did my mirror assignment and I'm wailing, my makeup is ruined. It's okay.
Okay, 1 second. Before we move on, please, we realize that a lot of people are keeping seats for people, so the hall doesn't look like we are here. So we might have to close up. Whoever is not here will find it when they come. So instead of us having too many spaces between us, can we be more together?
Thank you very much. Thank you for cooperating. Now, whilst we're doing that, we'll invite our next speaker. Our next speaker is a consultant psychiatrist and psychologist. You see, we're catering to your mind. And our next speaker is the only male on this plenary. So please, with a round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Otefe Edebi to speak to us this morning. A round of applause, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For me, it's a massive delight to be here at WIMBIZ 2022. I think the first time I was at WIMBIZ was 2020. That was online. So it's good to be here physically, and it's something to be excited about. So I'm going to talk about mental health in a short, about 7 minutes. I often jokingly say that when I started out the journey 16 years ago, going to Arrow, mental health was not a conversation we, like my colleague would say, have normalized now. Those days, when I go to Arrow, and I go from Lagos to Arrow, sometimes I take the bus and get to front of the, what they call it now, the hospital. Arrow is along the road. I get in front of the hospital. Normally in Lagos, when we get to our junction, what do we say in Lagos when you are in the bus? What do you say? Huh? Owa, yes. But you cannot make the mistake to say Owa in front of Arrow. You can't. You know, so normally I will allow the bus to pass. When I go far, then I say Owa, then trek back. Because if you say Owa in front of Arrow, the person that, you know, throughout our conversation, Adeola was speaking with me, but if it was a boss and I said Owa in front of Arrow, she will shift. You know, but today it's a conversation we can all have. So I'm going to just say something very briefly. What is mental health? According to the World Health Organization, there are 4 things that makes for a mentally healthy person. How many of you agree with me that you may not have a physical sickness, but yet be physically unfit? You may not have high blood pressure. You may not have diabetes. But if something happens now and we all have to run out of this place, you'll be like, my enemy has come. You will not be able to, you'll be unfit. So mental health has nothing to do with mental illness. It's a state of well-being where, number 1, you are able to realize your potential. Number 2, you are able to cope with the normal stress of life. That is WHO's definition. Clearly, they were not thinking about Lagos. But for today, let's just take it like that. That's the cope with the normal stress of life. Number 3 is your capacity to work productively and fruitfully. And then the 4th and the final component of your mental well-being or mental health is that you are able to contribute to your community. That's what makes for mental health. Now, as I thought of what do I want to leave us with in this conversation, in this short time that I have, what is something that is very crucial to your mental health? And one thing was very prominent in my mind, the place, and I have heard it all over today. So I said to Adeola that I must be a man of the spirit. I will open church after this conversation. You know, it's connection. If I take somebody that has high blood pressure and I put the person here, and I put someone here that is seriously obese here, and then I put a 3rd person and this person is lonely. If I were to ask you, which of these 3 persons will die first from complications? It's because you already know where I'm going to now. That's, if I was not presenting this, you would have pointed at the other 2. But that statement is not just a hype. It's a research-proven statement. That loneliness is likely going to cause death faster than obesity and than hypertension. Loneliness. And interestingly, I think that was something. I was speaking with someone, having a session last night, and I said to the person, I said, loneliness has become a crisis today. I mean, the world talks about the place of loneliness and your mental health. So important that it's one of the first statements, well, for those of us who read some of the holy books, you will remember a statement that was said, it is not good for the man to be alone. And today, like I said, is just to share and just to focus on the importance of connection. And that's the word I will really, really leave us with today. That connection is a vital part of your mental health. And that's something that you should be intentional about. Because many times we do what is urgent and we leave out what is important. And connecting to people is important. It's important for your mental well-being. It's important for your mental health. It's important for you to be your best version. But I'm not just talking about connecting with people in any way and, just connecting for the sake of connection. There's something I read online that someone put up, and I'm just going to leave us with this. It says, the person said, actually a member of WIMBIZ, she said on her Facebook page, she said, in years to come, the things people will miss most is the laughter they didn't have with their friends. True friendship they missed because of envy and wrong mindsets. The years to come, that's all that will really, really matter. That's what will really, really matter. That's why the song that says, how are you, my friend? How do you do, my friend? That song just is playing rent-free in my mind. And that's what I will leave you with this morning. Thank you very much.
Mental health. Everybody in Nigeria needs to check their mental health. Every one of us. Because we feel like when you're in traffic, you are very productive. Nope. That's 4 hours of your life on the road. And then you deceive yourself that you're productive. Thank you very much, sir, for that. A round of applause for our doctor.
So many myths need to be debunked when it comes to conversations surrounding mental health. It's shrouded in so much secrecy, and it shouldn't be that way. So I'm really glad that he's mentioned all that we need to know. Well, I'm sure that there are questions that will be asked. Now, if you see, we're taking you through a flow. First, we talked about your emotional health. We've talked about your mental health. And now it's time to talk about your physical health.
And up next is Dr Modupe Elebute-Odunsi, the co-founder, CEO, Marcel Ruth Cancer Center and Specialist Hospital. This is a virtual discussion.
Can we please put our hands together for Dr. Modupe as she joins us virtually?
Thank you for having me at WIMBIZ 2022. I was at WIMBIZ last year in person. I'm very sorry that I can't be there, but part of this is actually trying to look after my health. More importantly, I think my daughter's health. She's sitting exams for a sixth form school, and I felt I really needed to be here. But I'm glad I can join you virtually. And thank you very much for having me. I just want to say, I'm the last speaker, but certainly I'm not the tail. But I think actually that to the first speaker, I think this has worked beautifully well, because you started this off in a very, very positive manner and highlighting for us actually one of the most important parts of our health, which is our emotional health. I'm going to be talking about physical health, but before I start, I just wanted to bring back to everybody in the room. We all know this saying, health is wealth. Right? We all know, everybody says it all the time. We say it in a very glib manner. And I think what we're trying to do on the session this morning, all three of us together, is to say this is actually very, very important. In fact, the person who coined the phrase health is wealth, the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, as far back as in 1860, what he actually said is the first wealth is health. The first, wealth is health. If you are not well, you cannot, do all the jobs. You can't chase all these contracts. My two daughters in their 30s, they seem to have a second gig, a third side gig. You won't be able to do even your first gig if you're not well. So whatever else you take from this session this morning, please, we need to understand that our first wealth is our health. Now, coming to our physical health, that is quite important. And for me, the one thing I want us to all leave with this morning is, do you know your numbers? Do you know your numbers? Because without actually knowledge is key. So when I say, do you know your numbers? Do you know your height and your weight? Because when you know your height and your weight, you can, calculate your body mass index, which is the biggest key to a number of the silent killers that are around, including hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. They're all wrapped around, our weight, our lifestyle, our height and weight ratio. So we need to know our numbers. You need to know what your blood pressure is. If I was in the room, I'd ask, but I can't sort of interact with you in that manner. What is your blood pressure? What is your weight? Are you within a good BMI, or are you slightly overweight? And if you are, what should you be doing about it? So do you know your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar? Do you know your fasting cholesterol? Those are all very important things. And, they are more important to us, as I'm saying, than all the other things that we're chasing around. Now, obviously, I'm going to come at this from a cancer perspective because I'm an oncologist, and we have now been operational at our hospital, Marcel Ruth Cancer Center, a specialist hospital, for just under 2 years now. And so we already are beginning to gather data. And I thought I'd share some of that with you this morning, because I think when we know the figures, and most of you in the room are incredibly intelligent, very vibrant. I was watching as people were arriving this morning. I really enjoyed the bit where there was connection, and I wasn't there. So I'm going to make sure that I'm there physically next time. But we have now seen almost 2,000 patients at Marcel Ruth. We don't only look after cancer patients. We also have other specialists looking after other conditions. But from a cancer perspective, we've seen over 1,500 patients in under 2 years. Now, last month was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This month, November, is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. So I'm going to focus on breast cancer because I was having to look at our data for a number of talks that I was giving. We have seen almost 500 breast cancer patients at Marcel Ruth. But indeed, only yesterday, true story, I was called by a very senior medical colleague who referred to me a 22-year-old patient yesterday who we're going to have to see quite urgently. And she has a family history of breast cancer. That was her risk factor. We have people as young as 30, although the majority of the patients are between the ages of 40 to 60. But the one point we need to walk away today is for those who have a family history of cancer, any cancer at all, any screening programs that you've been talked about, you need to start 10 years before the index person in your family had cancer. So if normally breast cancer starts at 50, if your mother or auntie or somebody had breast cancer, whether they survived or not, if they presented at age 40, you should be screened from age 30. If there's somebody in the family with a history of cancer at age 30, your screening should start at age 20. Going back to our breast cancer cases, like I said, we've seen almost 500 cases. Now, as of all those 500 cases, 75% of them are presenting at an advanced stage. Now, this is irrespective. We're seeing patients from all over the country. It's irrespective of whether these ladies are ladies who went to with me, have been in banking, oil and gas, or whether they are actually people who come from a completely different socioeconomic background. They're seeing are presenting with advanced cancer. And at that stage, it is difficult for us to make any difference whatsoever to their treatments. So we looked at what are the types of cancers that people with breast cancer are presenting with. Now, for a lot of you in the room, I'm sure you've heard of Angelina Jolie and the fact that she made the decision to have both her breasts removed because there was a family history of cancer and she didn't want to take that risk. There's also something called hormone receptor positive or hormone receptor negative cancer. Now, receptor negative cancer is more aggressive. We know that worldwide. Hormone receptor positive cases, we can do a lot about. In particular, there are new treatments available for people who are hormone receptor positive. So there's a lot in literature about the fact that breast cancer, or most cancers, are more aggressive in Black, African, and American population. And one thing I can tell you this morning is that the reason for that is the fact that the patients are presenting late. In our hands, looking at our patients, actually 70% of our patients are hormone receptor positive. You don't need to know the details. All you need to know is 70% of our patients have good risk cancer that we could have done something about. However, they're presenting too late. So there's a genetic bit of it, and there's nothing much that we can do about that. And that doesn't mean that people inherit cancer. It just means that sometimes there's a switch in the gene that makes cancer more prevalent in that person at that time. But there is a lot that we can do. So smoking is a no-no. I mean, really is, and especially for women, the risks if you've been smoking, even if you stop smoking, the risks continue for many more years than it does for a man who stops smoking. You know, women always have the short straw. Alcohol in moderation is fine, but alcohol can predispose you to liver cancer and other things. Body mass index weight is an issue, and therefore keeping an eye on nutrition, a sedentary lifestyle, gym and doing what you don't enjoy, just walking every day. Even if you walk for 30 minutes every day, that's all we need. Now, ladies in the house, annual health screening. So recently, about 10 days ago, we offered to screen 100 women free, breast ultrasound and mammogram. We were delighted. In 72 hours, our online registration was overrun by over 150 women. We had to close it down. We looked at the data. Most of the women were over 50. I'm really grateful about that because age is a risk factor for cancer and all the silent killers. So the older we get, the more intentional, the more attention we have to pay about our health. You know, we women, we think that, the older we get, we're more busy, there's husband, there's children. No, the older we get, that's actually when it's more important that we look after ourselves. And it's great to see so many beautifully looking women this morning who are all looking after themselves outwardly. We also need to do the inner health, the physical health, knowing our numbers. So that is actually critical. You need to pay more attention the older you get and have your annual health screening done. We've done, when we did the breast cancer screening thing, we had over 100 women come. We asked them, and actually, disappointingly, about 60% had never did a breast ultrasound. No, 60% of women that came to us, and most of you are probably in the room today, had never ever had any screening done. Now that is worrying. We're unfortunate that we don't have a public health system that sends us letters like they do in other countries to remind us to have our screening done. But the onus is on us, so that we can keep our families well, so that we can ensure that we enjoy our careers. Yes, as actually being well. So health is wealth. In fact, the first wealth is health. And if you do not look after your health, the rest of it will not even begin to matter because there's nothing to do. And just to illustrate that, so this week we have a gentleman in his 60s, took oil and gas, to them extreme, like lots of oil and gas funds, developed a 6-8-week scan and is now backing the static breast cancer. So the point I'm trying to make is annual health screening is very, very important. And I tell Ruth, people are really busy. We've now shortened, we have something called Swift, which we do under 1 hour, less than 100,000. So if we all look at ourselves on our handbags, on our chip, with your colon, and that is actually the biggest key things, especially the older we get. When we did the screening about 2 weeks ago, we picked up 2 women with lumps that now need to be investigated. So out of 100 women, we picked up 2 women. So just to leave you with the message, it's fantastic that as women, we spend a lot of time looking after other people. I think that was also that drew me to the number of things that the first speaker said. We need to come back to ourselves, but we need to understand that it's only by physically being well ourselves that we will actually be able to keep our families well. And all the businesses that we've started, all you huge entrepreneurs like yourself, only when we're well is when we can actually keep that going as well. So it's key. your next birthday present, your Christmas present to yourself, spend less than an hour having your screening done, spend less than an hour also making sure you know your numbers, as well as doing your mirror test, and together, holistically, you will know that you are well, and prevention is better than cure. Have a family history of cancer, and that puts you at more risk. So know your family history, and if you have a family history, doesn't matter what type of cancer it was, still puts you at risk. So please look after, we must look after ourselves. We've got to stop. We've got to understand the first wealth is health. Everything else that we're chasing can only start if we remain, healthy. We need to know our numbers. We need to have our screen. We need to prioritize ourselves, but emotionally, mentally, and physically. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for that session. And it's our hope that I believe that we would all take something from that before Christmas. How many of us are going to do checks? Okay, more hands will come up, right? So if we told you that we had free checks for you outside, how many of you would go for it? Okay, so we have some good news.
Yes, it's a great day because in the spirit of health is wealth, Neth Pharmacy, Evercare Hospital, and Marcel Ruth Cancer Center are all outside and they're doing free health check. A round of applause. So you can check your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your bone density, your cholesterol, and we all need to check our blood pressure, please. We all need to.
And now Marcel Ruth Cancer Center is also giving away like a proper holistic check. They have some giveaways. So we'd like you to drop your business cards. At some point, we would probably let you know where the box is so you can drop in your business cards. And one lucky person gets to win a proper holistic check. It's time for us to have the questions and the answers. And today we've decided to prioritize our online audience first. Hello, online audience. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'll be taking a question from the online audience, and this question is directed at Dr. Modupe. What do you think are the causes of the increased prevalence of cancers in Nigeria and the fact that they occur in younger people now?
Yes, I know this is a question that I keep getting asked all the time. I think what I didn't do was put the incidence of cancer in perspective. So worldwide, in 2020, the COVID-19 that we were all so worried about, the pandemic, data now shows that COVID-19 was responsible for about 3 million deaths worldwide. Cancer was responsible for 10 million deaths. Okay, so but in Africa, not just Nigeria, we have an issue with collecting data. And that's one of the things why we're focusing on this at Marcel Ruth and encouraging and collaborating with other people. If you look at the WHO statistics for cancer in Nigeria in 2018 to 2020, there were only supposed to be 200,000 deaths annually in a population of 200 million. We know that's not possible. So I think when you're saying we say increase now, I think the increase is because people are becoming more aware. People are now beginning to seek care. I think also there are now the facilities, the hospitals that are coming up that are able to look after patients. There are people like myself. I worked in abroad in the UK for almost 40 years before I came back to Nigeria. So the confidence in the health system wasn't there. And a lot of our patients were going abroad. So we were losing that data. So I think now we're seeing the number of patients that we should have been seeing. That's what I think. But I think that as we collect this data over the next few years, it will become clearer once we have like 5 years data. We're already 2 years along. So I don't really believe that there's been an increase in cancer. If I'm worried at all, I'm worried about the fact that the family history is quite high. And the other thing, because it's Lung Cancer Awareness this month, again, people think all these things are, very rare. We've seen 3 women with lung cancer at Marcel Ruth in the last 2 years who did not smoke, who did not live with anybody that smoked. I have my theory about generators, but I'm not saying it too loudly. We have to have electricity one way or the other, but we've got to think about the fumes and the chemicals that all this predisposes us to. So there are a number of environmental issues that need to be addressed from a public health point of view that are not. But I don't believe that cancer numbers are getting more. I just think that more of us are now working in this space and collecting the data, and we know what's going on. Breast cancer, by the way, for the few men in the room, breast cancer also occurs in men. Only about 1% of the population of people who have breast cancer worldwide. But at Marcel Ruth, we have 3 men who have breast cancer. These things are not totally rare. I hope that answers the question.
Can I also just add something to that?
Yes.
I've also with the little that I've realized, a lot of our emotional illness, a lot of our physical illnesses start emotionally. So if people are resentful, angry, they don't let things go, and they're consistently bitter, it can cause a cancer. Now, a lot of times we don't know also that we create diseases in our heads. Because I work with the subconscious mind, I've seen all kinds of things. So some people look at it, I'll even use myself as an example. I created an eye problem because I wanted a connection with my mother. I remember going to the optician, and the optician said to my mother there was nothing wrong with my eyes. And I said, I'll go and come back. And by the time I came back, I needed to wear glasses. And I've been wearing glasses since then. So sometimes, a lot of times, our physical ailments start emotionally. So letting go, forgiving is so important, and we must do it every day. At the end of every day, just let go of all the resentment and toxins and anger that you had throughout the day, and do not sleep with it, because as you sleep, that's how you wake up. And so when you sleep angry, you'll wake up angry, and then the cycle continues.
I feel like we need to have another session for forgiveness, because how many people honestly know it's not easy?
Well, can I just say something quickly? If I may just interject very quickly, and I hear exactly what you're saying. But the thing is, at the end, we're not going to be able to actually say, so I don't want people in the room to go away.
We're going to try to reconnect with Dr. Modupe, but there's another question that we have here. That question, by the way, was from Rebecca online. Thank you very much, Rebecca. We're going to take 2 questions from the audience. So please, if you have a question, find your way to the microphone whilst we take the second question from the audience, from the virtual audience.
Right. This question is from Elizabeth, and I think it's for 2. That's for you and Dr. Modupe. It's, good morning, my name is Elizabeth. My mom had cancer, unfortunately passed 3 years ago at the age of 57. It has been a struggle. I do my checks every 6 months. I'm struggling with my mental health due to fear. What would you advise I can do to take this fear away?
Okay, I think this is a mental health, emotional and mental health.
It's all 3.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so how many people here remember the story of Job in the Bible? Okay, so the first thing Job said when he started to complain about his situation was, what I feared the most has come upon me. So the truth is that what you fear the most will come upon you. So what you want to do is change that fear to something more empowering. The fact that my father's friend died in his sleep does not mean I will not sleep again. So what I want to do is sit in the place where I keep saying to myself, all is well. I mean, the good thing is she's going for checkups. So the checkups are coming back positively. So sit down and just keep saying to yourself all the time that say exactly what you want. That's what I'll say.
Okay. What the person is doing is, so you are painting the worst case scenario in your mind, and that's normal. That's okay. It's called to catastrophize. But what you can do is, there's a joke that says, whether you live in fear and or you live bold, no one is coming out of life alive. True. All of us will die. So you can choose to stay in the present and just enjoy the moment. But also be well aware and well informed that, yes, your mom may have passed on because of cancer, but there are other factors. It's not just, it's sometimes early detection, early treatment can change the whole course of things. And the time she passed on, and now there have been advancement in treatment. So these are some of the things you may need to arm yourself with. You may need to go into therapy to have this kind of conversation, to remind you that, look, yes, your fear is valid, but the thought process that is feeding that fear is incorrect. And that's what we need to work on.
Thank you very much.
And can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Yes, I think that the answers already cover most of this. I want to say that at most comprehensive, in particular, cancer centers, including Marcel Ruth, we have a big counseling team. So, for example, when we're about to start treatment, patients have to see a counseling team led by very, very senior nurses who have done a lot of training in oncology nursing. But I think for this lady whose mother died so young, and the impact of this, even this week, somebody called me about a very good friend of hers who is now needing palliative care, being looked after by her niece. And I was wondering, well, what happened to her? Why are you looking after your aunt? Well, this young lady's mother died her father died when she was 3, her mother died when she was 12, and now this is her aunt who's died at age 52. So the message here is for those who have a family history, the screening needs to start earlier. But also, please, there are lots of people. There's the doctor and all the panelists in the room who all specialize in the different aspects of well-being, emotional well-being, mental well-being, and physical well-being. I'm talking about the physical one, but also I think there's been a stigma in terms of people going to access counseling and mental health support. Probably changed a lot now since COVID. Please, if you're struggling with these feelings, and there seem to be quite a few on the chat, somebody whose mother just died from lung cancer 3 days ago. I mean, that is so raw. And I have to say, I applaud you for being on the WIMBIZ platform dealing with that today. There are people who can help. Just get in contact with us, with any of the members of the panel today. This is what we do. This is what we would like to do. We want to help you be better, be well. We want you to help you live your best life all the time. You're all very hardworking women doing amazing things, incredible things. When I came to WIMBIZ last year, I was floored. I mean, I came back thinking, yes, I'll come back and I'm setting up this business. I'm a medic. I've never done anything in setting up business and everything. And I met women who were 20 years younger than me, who had actually had their own businesses, supported their families from their 30s. You are incredible women. You're beautiful women. You're doing so much, not just for your family, but also for the communities. A lot of you, particularly during COVID, set up all sorts of systems to help the elderly, all sorts of people. Please just come back and also look out after yourselves. And where you need support, where you need help, I'm sure there's contacts for each and every one of us on the panel today. Reach out, because there's help not far away, to make sure that when you hold up that mirror, I love that this morning. I've never heard of it before and I've never done it, but I'm going to be doing it now for the next 90 days. When you hold up that mirror, you will shine, and people will have to wear their sunglasses because you're both physically well, mentally and emotionally well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is quite interesting. We're going to go on to, how many questions do we have?
We have 2 questions because we've run out of time.
Please, can we make it very brief and quick?
Hello.
Thank you.
Good morning. Omakweju. I actually, speaking about the cancer issue, I've lost my mom to a tumor in her cheek, my dad prostrate, my auntie uterine cancer, my grandmother intestinal, another auntie on my dad's side, lung cancer. So it's scary for me. And my mom's was undetectable. She went to South Africa, she went to UK. Even here, they said there was nothing wrong. They did all the swabs and all that. and she died within 3 years. She died this year. So it's really tough for me, and I keep asking myself, what can somebody do? Are there immune boosters, or because they're all unrelated, so it's not like it's a particular type of cancer that you know that, okay, I need to look out for this or I need to look out for that. So what can somebody do to actually prevent that occurrence in the family? Thank you.
Okay, if I may take that, and it's very, it's amazing, honestly, the family history that you've had, and I think all of us in the room, I'm sure, feel for you and also the rest of your family. But this is exactly what I was saying before. So that statement that you made, saying they're all unrelated, they probably are not all unrelated. There are genes. There's the BRCA gene. There are other genes that actually put people at risk for different types of cancer, but all in the same family. So what you need to have done, you and other members of your family actually, is to come and have these genetic tests done that will let you know whether there is an increased risk in yourself in particular, and then to work with people who will support you through that. So please, even though the cancers may be different, sometimes there is a connecting genetic reason why they've been predisposed to that, and as well. But please be strong. It really, I'm sure this is really tough. But also, what I'm hearing from you, once you get to know whether there is any genetic, if there's none, then you know it's all environmental, and there's nothing. It's not about keeping the lifestyle things that I was talking about earlier. But do please come and see us, or anybody else who is looking after cancer patients and involved in cancer genetics. That will help you. But actually hearing you, which is what I'm saying, that since I came to Lagos, I cannot believe the amount of positive family history that we have in Nigeria. And we are collecting samples from our patients with consent and with other people who come for screening or other tests. And we're keeping them in a -80-degree freezer. And we're going to be looking at the genetics of in all these samples with people's permission. And we're going to start that project very soon. So hopefully maybe WIMBIZ next year, I'll be able to give you even more information about what's happening in Nigeria in that way. But, please take heart. There's a lot that can be done to inform you. And in the meantime, know your numbers. Find somebody to speak to get that emotional support that you need in the meantime.
Thank you, Dr. Modupe, for that. We have our final question from the audience.
My question is, what do you say to people that have been diagnosed that you have cancer? And they go to church, they refuse treatment. What do you say to them? Because it's so prevalent. I say this often. We have more educated, illiterate people. They go carry jars and think by doing this self-medication, it would work. And Dr. Adeola, thank you so much for the mirror walk. What I did when we did the second phase, I recorded it and I shared with the people close to me. Instead of just saying it to the mirror, because time is frozen, just use your phone, record it so that you can go back and listen to it on the day you're not motivated. Thank you.
Okay, now to the first bit of the question. I think we could spend 5 hours discussing that matter. It's been, I think, one of the most frustrating, most difficult thing for me and for most of us at Marcel Ruth to deal with. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it, and it seems to be something that is prevalent here. We're doing a lot of work to try and make sure people understand that actually, even if you get cancer, it can just be a journey. Just go through the treatment process and you'll be fine. But again and again, we find people who come late anyway, then we start treating them, and then they decide to go and get information from different places. And as you say, they go to church, they don't come back. And most of them actually, they go into this hallelujah diet. That's the other thing. Unbelievable. where they just have fruits and vegetables for months. I mean, I've never heard anything. I don't want to make any negative comments just in case there's somebody in there that's practicing this thing. But, what we are trying to do now, because we can't really stop people from living the lives that they understand and the culture and the religion, is that whatever you do, I'm a Christian too, and most of us have a religious background. It's the same God that created science and the doctors. So just do everything in tandem. What you shouldn't do is drop the medical side of things whilst you go to church. We've seen, it's been awful. And there's one particular case that comes to mind. There was a lady with uterine cancer who had chemotherapy before she was supposed to have surgery. The chemotherapy worked beautifully. She could feel this lump before. With the chemotherapy, it disappeared. But the next part of the treatment was to remove the womb. She's in her 60s. She didn't need it anyway. But because she couldn't feel it anymore, she went to church and they told her that she was cured. So she didn't come back for her surgery. 6 months later, she came in, with lots of wristbands, plastic bands. Honestly, she'd been there, I don't know for how many months. The cancer had now spread everywhere, her lungs, her brain, everywhere. And she was like, "Doctor, please, can I have this surgery now? Can I have this surgery now?" But unfortunately, it was too late. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to make one quick point, and I don't want to get into politics, but I think one of the things I feel very strongly about is that sometimes we can't blame people because we don't have a public health sector that works. If we had a public health sector that worked, every one of you in this room would be getting letters from your health system telling you from age 50 that you should go and have your mammogram, from 45 that you should have your colonoscopy. It'll have picked up that you had a family history, and it will be calling you 10 years earlier than the person who had the family history. We don't have that. That's the problem. So that is the issue. And that's why we, in private sector, and working with big groups like you, WIMBIZ, are the ones who are going to have to do this. We can't wait for the public sector because people are...
Thank you so much.
Just to go and have their excellence.
Thank you, Dr. Modupe. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say something on that. How do you get people to go receive treatment? So it's not just peculiar with cancer, but there's something in mental health we call intellectual insight, and then we have emotional insight. So for example, so we do something called a motivational conversation. You're trying to motivate the person to take action. Sometimes why people don't explore things because they really don't know. Sometimes they're in denial. So one major thing you really need to do is, once again, may sound like a cliche, but you have to connect with them at what motivates them. So, for example, I told one person once, I said, do this, that wouldn't you want to walk the aisle and be the father of the day for your child? And then he broke down crying. Trying to get him to intellectually make a move was not enough. But connecting with him at an emotional level was enough to move him to decide. Sometimes so you may need to take the person to assist them to treatment. So don't be quick to just go all on them like I don't understand and all of that. That may just shut them. Depending on the person you are dealing with, everyone, what motivates them is different. So if you are finding a difficult time, you may need to get someone else to talk to them to get them to seek help. I just wanted to add that because people taking action is not as simple as just giving them intellectual information. There are deeper things that hold people back from making those decisions.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. Thank you very much.
Now, I know that there are other questions in the hall, but I'm sorry.
It's a comment I want to share. My doctor told me this, and I wrote it and put in front of the mirror. Genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
That's a good way to round this up. Thank you.
I'm glad we didn't lose that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I think now it's time for us to start making lifestyle adjustments. But if you've enjoyed this session, if you feel like this has been a very impactful session, can we please put our hands together for our panel members?
Please.
No, we want to take photographs. We want photographs. Can we please welcome one of Africa's leading financial experts, a member of the board of trustees of WIMBIZ, Rolake Akinkugbe, as she comes on stage to join them for a photograph.
A round of applause. Thank you. While this is going on,